Welcome to the Voices of ALERES podcast, your inside look at the people, strategies, and market forces driving Century 21 Leading Edge and Century 21 Atria. Each episode, your hosts Paul Barron, Tasis Giannoukakis, and Stephen Chow will break down the market, provide unique insights on the industry, and discuss the strategies they have utilized to create one of the largest and most successful real estate groups in Canadian history. This is the Voices of ALERES.
Welcome, everybody. Let's start things off by talking or meeting my new partners, right? Obviously, my old new partner, Tasis Giannoukakis, and my new partner, Stephen Chow. So the purpose of this podcast is to get to know the voices of ALERES. So I'll shut up now and introduce you to Stephen Chow and let him talk to us about ALERES, why it was formed, and why he got into this partnership.
Yeah, no, thank you for hosting this first podcast for me, joining your group. We're the Voices of ALERES. About 9 months ago, we decided to join forces and put Century 21 Leading Edge and Century 21 Atria as one company under ALERES, and there's where we are today after 9 months, right? It's been going really well. How it started, I guess, it's a long story. It started about 2019 at Mexico, I believe, with Paul. One day he goes, we're at a Century 21 conference. Paul goes to me, Steven, you want to have breakfast at 6 a.m.? I'm like, well, that's a little bit early. But we had to have class at 8, so I'm like, yeah, let's see what this guy wants to talk to me about like 6 a.m. So we went. And after that breakfast, I'm like, wow, this guy wants me to sell my company to him. That was my first initial thought. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in selling the brokerage. And then through the last few years, from 2019 till I guess 2023, then I realized that he didn't want to buy my brokerage. He wanted to talk about an actual merger. A lot of times when we do a lot of these business, we talk about M&As, but we really know it's really just an acquisition. We just make it sound nicer as a merger. Then I realized Paul and Tasis really wanted to do a merger, and our conversation started, a little bit more serious in late 2022 around?
Yeah.
And took us about 2 years to get to where we are today, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's also interesting, Stephen, that when you talk about mergers and acquisitions, we also have all of our agents all wondering, what's going on. What we tell them, is that the truth? Right? And of course, we're all very truthful guys, so whatever we tell them is the truth, but they're doubting it. They know that mergers and acquisitions really means somebody took over somebody.
I think
right?
till now, 9 months later, we still have agents asking, Stephen, did you buy out Leading Edge? Stephen, are you retiring? Did you sell it to Leading Edge? So when you're leaving the company, right? I think after 9 months, they still have these questions. Tess, you must get these questions.
I get that as well. I think that when we announced this to both companies under somewhat of a veil, because we had an event hosted and it was invited guests from both brokerages. So Leading Edge agents didn't know that Atria was invited. Atria didn't know that Leading Edge was invited. They all came to the same venue to hear a speaker. They're like, okay, what are these guys doing here? What are these guys doing here? And then when we announced it, obviously there was a lot of confusion, but I think for the most part, everyone was really excited about it, right? I think they immediately saw a lot of the benefits, because we obviously prepared and explained to them why are we doing this, right? We're doing it to help all of you, all of our realtors. There's some pluses from this side, there's other pluses from this side. When we combine the two, it's 2 and 2 is not 4, 2 and 2 is now 6. But clearly we still get people asking, what's going on? Are we going to become one brokerage? Are we going to stay as two brokerages? What's ALERES? Are we now ALERES? So there's some confusion there too, right? We label some of the services that ALERES provides, because ultimately ALERES is a company that's not just a holding company, it's a company that is providing real estate services to both of these brokerages. So stuff like our education, we call ALERES Campus. So people, agents are naturally like, okay, so are we ALERES now? So we have to kind of explain that to them, right? So, but for I think the most part, they're all excited about it. So,
You know, I think the use of terms, right? And not to correct you, but I think that we should be looking at real estate systems.
Systems,
Is what
yeah.
is what ALERES is providing, because if we get into services, then we get into a challenge on whether or not we're acting or doing things to trade in real estate. ALERES has nothing to do with trading in real estate. It is really about providing systems to the real estate industry in order for them to do things better.
yep,
Right?
for sure.
So the other thing that that I'm super excited about, you know, the real estate business is a hard business, right? There is just so much involved with it, and I am, you know, ecstatic that we have done this partnership. I know that Stephen, it was obviously a long time to, you know, get you to not think that we were a predator and that we were, you know, looking at trying to join forces to be better, right? And I think that is, you know, what I was looking for. And you know, when I first partnered with Tasis, that was what I was looking for back then. And it's interesting is that it is difficult to find people that you want to be a partner with, right? And there's lots of people that come to the table, but there's very few that you would select. And I'll be very honest with you, is that from the onstart, from the get-go, there was never any interest in trying to take over Atria, right? It was always about finding the right people to work with. And I think what's interesting is that I think that we're all better, right, as a result of working together. And it is sometimes a challenge, right? You know, I know that I have a lot of people at Leading Edge that, you know, say, oh, we're doing it Atria's way, right? And you know, what does that mean? And why are we doing it that way? And I know that you've said to me that there's social media that's gone out from Leading Edge and it didn't include Atria, right? So I think that, you know, agents on both sides of the equation have concerns. But I think that when you find the right people to work with, you need to, you need to be open to change, right? And I think that that's super important, that we're all open to change and that we work together to make better systems for real estate agents to succeed.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you look at us, we still always say us or ourselves, right? We still classify Atria as myself, and I think Tasis classifies Leading Edge as himself a lot. I think even after 9 months, we sometimes forget that, hey, you know what? We're actually one partnership group, right? I think it's, especially for myself, right? Been in with Atria for about 20 plus years now. I was always a single owner, right? There's been a lot of adjusting to this, which I think that's the part I think when I first said yes to this was I was a little bit nervous, right? I think that was a conversation I had with the two of you. How would it look like with partners? And after 9 months, I realized, you know what? It's been amazing. As an individual guy, before you had to do everything on your own. Stuff that you're not good at. We're not good at everything, right? Things you're not good at, you had to go figure out on your own. But now with partners, realize all three of us knows everything to run our brokerage. But there's obviously certain parts that we're all a lot better. And I think that's the best part. I'm learning a lot these days from that, right?
Yep, I agree with you, Stephen. I think that naturally there's stuff that, you know, sometimes you like more or you don't mind doing as much. You're going to be better at it. Yes, we can do everything, but there's things that I don't want to go and learn everything about the pre-construction world. Why? Because Stephen Chow knows everything about the pre-construction world. So I can now say to somebody, you know, and typically agents come to us with questions, right? So, let's say to use pre-construction as an example. Yes, I can dig up and find the information that they want. But typically, if I hand it off to you, you already know the answer immediately, right? So I think that all three of us have benefited from, our other partners' strong points, right? Which just kind of help us concentrate more maybe on our strong points. So I'm quite happy about that as well.
I think it became more efficient even for
Yes.
answering our agents, right? Just like when you say pre-construction, I'll say the same thing as commercial. Back then when I get an agent call me, Steven, I need help on a commercial offer. I'm like, oh my goodness, another commercial offer. I got to figure this out. But now, hey, call the best man in the company that knows everything about commercial. I've been enjoying attending all your trainings about commercial. I'm like, you know what? I always had a basic. I'm like, wow, I'm learning a lot from your commercial trainings every week.
Yeah.
We're getting back to this this question about is Atria and Leading Edge going to become one company? So what is your view on that? I know that initially we created this partnership. We created ALERES. Both companies are owned by that entity, and they're operating separately in order for us to evaluate whether or not we should become one. So what is happening with that task?
Am I voting on that?
I'm putting no. This is not a vote, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I'm sure honest question, because a lot of the agents have that question.
Yeah.
Whether they ask us that question or not, sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. But yeah, the truth is, I don't think we know yet. I think what we've done so far is we've spent the last 9 months developing, procedures, standard operating procedures on everything under the sun. I can't say how many procedures we've written and rewritten. And it's been a great exercise because why? It caused us to immediately look at what we were doing, which sometimes we hadn't really looked at that or given it a second thought for years sometimes. So we needed to revisit that and then look at it from both brokerages' sides and see, okay, what is this one better? Is that one better? Or is a combination of the two better? So I think we've been busy doing all of that, and I think we need to do all of that to come to the conclusion on whether we should be one large brokerage or whether we should remain as two separate brokerages. So that's the non-answer answer. We're working on it. We're working on it.
What do you think, Stephen?
I think for the last, let's say going back to a year and a half ago, probably in my mind, my answer has changed like 10 times. There are days I think we should be one big brokerage.
Yep.
I think certain things make it a lot easier, right? We have one broker of record, which Paul could take that job.
Nobody wants that job.
That's the worst title. No, sometimes you think about it joking. But I don't think what Tasis said, we don't have an answer. I think what we're really trying to do is, I'm glad we actually took a step back and to really think about this. I think if we look back, say even 10 months ago,
Yep.
we're trying to go this way or we're trying to go this way. But now for the last 9 months, you know what? There's pros and cons of doing both ways.
Yep.
So I think agents keep on saying, hey, you guys are not telling us. You guys have a plan. I'm like, we don't have a plan. Our plan is to let's look at every department, look at what everything we do, all the systems, services we provide to our agents, and find the best of both worlds. And then once we figure all that out, then we can figure out, hey, should we be one big brokerage or should we continue to run two separate companies together, right, under ALERES? Paul, have you decided?
Yeah, so I think that I haven't decided either, but I think that how we have done things here has been a huge benefit to this merger. So the majority of times when brokerages merge, they immediately have to figure all of that out, right? And they have to get those systems in place and then switch over a bunch of agents and then have it all happen at once. And I think that by taking a step back and not moving quickly, I think it's been a huge advantage for us to be able to evaluate things. And I think it is not necessarily figuring out SOPs although that's been great. And what I wanted to say about SOPs is that another thing that I think is fantastic about this partnership is the teamwork that staff on both sides of the brokerages have been doing. Everybody's working together on things. I think that's going smoothly as far as I've seen, but I think that that's also fantastic. I think that our agents and we've got a lot of committees and working on things, and I think this is a huge benefit that we've taken that approach. And I think that it is not just about SOPs and systems, but it's more about what is the value of brand, right? And when we look at agents are trying to create their own brand, right? But they also have to use the brand that's been provided to them. And clearly right now, Leading Edge and Atria are both Century 21. So they're both the same brand. And we need to look at the advantages of, possibly keeping them separate, as opposed to if there is a different advantage to holding them as one. So the reality is that no decision has been made. I know that a lot of people ask me about that. Or it's also interesting when you look at a brokerage or you look at when things happen, people talk to you like, I know what's happening, right? I know that this is it. You're just not telling us, right? You get that, Stephen, right?
The master plan.
Yeah. You guys are just you're slow playing us, right? And the truth is that we're slow playing the decision because we want it to be the right decision, right? Yep. And I think that we have had a lot of additional opportunities that have come to the table. And the idea with ALERES is that we're not looking at stopping with the 2 brokerage and the service agreements where those brokerages are there, is that we are looking at other opportunities, right? Yep. And when we look at those opportunities, it almost seems like more of those have come to the table as a result of keeping the brand separate, right? And what are the attributes? What are the things that are different at those brokerages, right? And I think that the cultures are a little bit different at the 2 brokerages. And part of the challenge is, do you join those cultures together or do you let them be, right? And then do you provide systems from ALERES to look after both brokerages, right? And or all 10 brokerages if that's what we get to by the end of 2026. No, I'm just setting the gauntlet there for
Only 10?
I thought it was 2025 you're saying it.
I think, to add to that, Paul, I think, not that it was slow played, but I don't think you can find a single agent that can say that they were in any way negatively affected by it. It's quite the opposite. Every agent that I've spoken to has pointed to the positive that has come from this, right? And as Paul said, if you try and do this as a typical type of merger where oh, surprise, effective immediately, here's your new business card, here's your new name, like people go into a panic, they don't know what's going on. There was zero of that, right? Because of the way that we rolled this out. So I think that we did not disturb the agent's business in any way, because that would be the last thing that we want to do. We're here to help them, not hinder them. And quite the opposite. I think that all of the agents that I've spoken to have seen the positive results from it so far. So I think that means we're doing a good job by slow playing it so far.
Yeah. And right? It is a strategy. It's not a slow play, right?
Yeah.
So Stephen, touched on something good there, which was a lot of the agents have seen the benefit. So what have you seen at Atria in terms of, agents?
I think let's talk about training and support. Agents always going to a brokerage, always looking for training, no matter you're new or experienced. But in the last few months, we're able to combine the 2 trainings, right? We kind of mentioned it earlier. Leading Edge had stuff that they were very good at. Atria had stuff we're very good at. But now, the best of all trainings are combined together, right? And I think the other part is We launched ALERES Campus. It's been a great hit. We launched about 2 months ago. Now we have, it's basically, I like to call it the ALERES Campus. What's ALERES Campus? Is that it's our own Netflix system, right? We have about 146 videos our own team has recorded. We're creating courses that focus on new agents to experienced agents to compliance courses. I think right now, every single month, we have about 23 trainings a month. And we're not just saying, a lot of brokers are saying, hey, you know what? A broker will do a training, a manager will do a training. All our team of management, our senior management team, that's about 12 of us? 12 of them are actually training stuff that each of them, they're very, very good at. Right? Back then, as a trainer, you're trying to teach everything. Maybe I'm not the best negotiator, but I'm very good at doing a listing presentation. We had to train everything. Yeah. And now we have everybody that's saying, you know what, I'm good at this. Let me do this topic. Then I'm good at this. Now we can actually have, because of our combined resources, we're able to hire more people to come in to do our speaker. One of the biggest benefits from this, the training perspective, how many companies can say they actually have their own in-house coach? Honestly, I've never heard that before. But I'm so proud now when we do recruiting presentation, we have a coach. You go find another company say, oh, you know what, they hired this coach, they hired this coach. I don't have to say that. My coach, it's on our payroll. Our coach, it's in-house, right? What have you on that
And it's
side,
included.
Right?
You're not paying an extra fee to go get that coaching, right? And I think to add to your point, Stephen, we alluded to it earlier, right? You look at the training, and when we were combining our training platforms, what was interesting was we asked the staff, the management staff, okay, who wants to do these different topics? And inevitably, the ones that each person picked are the ones that they like doing, and therefore they're good at it, right? So yes, maybe you can say, okay, there's 5 topics, I can do all 5. I'm not the best at all 5.
Of course.
Right? So
we'll use FinTrack as an
yeah,
example, right?
Exactly.
There's a lot of people who are not very good at FinTrack, but guess what? Now we actually have a team of 3 of us that focus on FinTrack training. I think we're all looking at different analysis. What is a possible suspicious transaction? I think that's going well for our training, right? So to your point, we're all focused on what we're really good at in our training.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have a bunch of brokerages want to join us or come to the ALERES systems just for FinTrack, because everybody hates FinTrack, right? Nobody wants to deal with FinTrack. Absolutely
call
nobody.
the compliance officer.
Yes.
Right, and when you look at FinTrack, it's obviously a very serious issue.
Yeah.
We actually know of a brokerage that was fined $156,000
Yep.
For a FinTrack violation.
Yep.
So it's serious matter. And I think it's interesting that when you look at running a brokerage, most realtors don't really appreciate the amount of liability that a brokerage has,
Yep.
right? When we look at RICO, we look at rules and regulations, we look at all of these potential fines that you can get. And, a lot of agents complain about FinTrack. It is what it is. So we need to provide the best training. We need to have people understanding, what is there. And we need to do the right things as a brokerage so that we, when we are audited, we're passing the audit with flying colors. Yep. And I think that there's a lot of brokerages that don't have these things in place, right? Yep. Like they really just don't, right? And that is a risk to agents, right?
100%.
And I think that, when we look at why should an agent, not to do a recruiting thing here on our podcast, but why should an agent join Atria or Leading Edge or the brokerages that we do service agreements that are partnering with us on these systems? It's because they will have a better chance for success, right? Yep. And I think the other thing that happens is that the real estate industry is so complicated. It's so hard to figure out all of the things that you need to do, right? So when we look at AI as an example, agents, again, and I was talking to you guys earlier about this, that you go to a training class, an outside training class. This is not an internal leading edge or ALERES training class, right? This is an outside training class, and they give you all these great ideas. And then you go back to the office and you think, okay, I'm now going to implement those ideas. And then you start to try to do it and you get stuck and you're on your own. So these trainers are giving you the ideas, but they're not providing systems to help you get through it. So when you look at the training aspect of things, I think that both companies had amazing training. We probably had more training than Atria had, but Atria had a platform to provide and organize the training. So we put all of that together, and now I think that we've got the kick-ass best training
the best.
in the
Yeah.
industry. I'm convinced of that.
I'm very convinced of that, right?
Yeah.
We've done enough recruiting. We hear that from agents coming in, experienced or inexperienced agents. They're saying, you know what? I've never seen another company have so much training. Right? I think just that alone, it's very powerful what we've had put together. You touch upon a point that, I guess, value about brokerages.
Yeah.
Sometimes people look at brokerages is how much they charge, a dollar value. But I think a lot of times agents should look at is what value can my brokerage help me when there's a problem? I think agents always think real estate is smooth sailing, but we all know it's not. There's always that one deal. There's something someone did by accident. There's no intention of fraud. It happens. We all do a little bit of mistake here and there. But it's the value of a good brokerage, good support, good management team to help you. Arbitration, RICO complaints, FinTrack. I think that's the part that where people do not put they don't put a price tag on. But I think from our brokerages, we're very, very strong on that aspect. Like I've been to arbitration enough times, and I realized, oh my God, I thought I was okay at it, but I'm looking at some of these companies, I'm amazing. Right? But now with joining forces with Leading Edge at ALERES, I look at Paul's today's whole email from the arbitration email. I'm like, I'm not good. Right? If I go to arbitration against this guy, I probably will lose. But I think that's the part where I'm trying to say is people don't see the value of a brokerage at the time they actually need the brokerage's help. Right?
So Stephen, you just, it clicked on me because I posted this yesterday, a quote, don't think of cost, think of value, right? And I think that's so true, right? And I think I get the fact that especially when the market is slower, it's easy for realtors to try and say, oh, I want to save some money, but you're not saving money. Saving a few dollars in fees to a brokerage and then getting nothing in return, you're not saving money. And we've had situations where a realtor that didn't even know what arbitration was and had gotten totally ripped off, and Paul took it to arbitration, and he's like, oh my God, you guys are the best. This happened like 3 different times in the past. My broker never helped me, didn't even tell me I could go to arbitration, and he got like $28,000, right? And it's like, holy smokes. So you look at cost and value. He got $28,000 that he didn't even know he was entitled to, right?
Because I think the broker of record himself didn't know there's arbitration.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly, right? So that's a great example, right?
Right.
So value. Let's get back to ALERES and what is the value that we're creating. Stephen touched on training being one of them. I think that we've done a fabulous job of combining the two. Our pre-con department, again, Stephen is very strong and his team is very strong on the pre-con side of things. And yes, we know that that's not the strongest sector right now, but there's also pre-con, not just condos, but pre-con detached and semi-detached that is more geared towards end users. And I think that that's gaining a lot of momentum, and we have great access to that through Stephen. So that's, I think, worked quite well. And then, of course, our lead department. Our lead department is something that I think so many realtors are looking for right now, especially when the market slows down. and you can't rely, let's say, just on your sphere of influence like you used to in the past. Agents need leads. So that's Mr. Barron's baby, and that's what he runs. So Paul, tell us a little bit about the lead department and what we're doing with that.
Sure. So I think the first point, Tass, is that when you survey agents and ask them, what do they think they need, they all think they need leads, right? And that's really only partially true, right? Because a lot of agents can go places where they get leads, and a lead can be, here's 6 pages from the phone book, call them, right? Those are leads. So I think that it's important to understand that you need to have a system to be able to deal with leads. And it's actually interesting is that I think ALERES, when we look at the systems that we're providing, we're trying to provide systems to help realtors sell more. So how do we do that? We do all of the things that they used to do themselves and leave them time to go and meet clients, show houses, present offers, and do transactions, right? Yep. So if that's the only thing that you did as a realtor, you had 5 appointments a week with listings, you had 5 buyer interviews a week, you went out, you didn't sign them all up, but you signed half of them up, that's 5 buyer contracts and 5 buyer and listing contracts, 2.5 each, right? If we can get a half a listing, and your business is going to be different. So the idea is that we don't stop at we generate leads. We actually, with our department there, we're actually a database management company, right? And doing real estate is so difficult to do on your own that you need a team, right? And it's also interesting that a lot of brokerages and a lot of agents talk about who is a team-friendly brokerage, right? And I think ALERES, Atria, Leading Edge, very team-friendly brokerages. And the reason that we're team-friendly is that we realize that it's very, very difficult to do on your own. And our lead gen department really offers the team support to individual agents, right? Yep. But we also offer it to our large teams, because what is the weakness of most large teams? Most large teams, their weakness is they don't really know how to manage people. They don't really know how to train people. What they're doing is a lot of the large teams, people join them because they give them their leads. And they're great leads. You get a lead from a sign call, an open house. These are great leads to have. But what happens is that if you haven't taught an agent how to manage those leads, how to convert those leads, then really they don't have value. So It is a complete system. And, I think that this is our first podcast, and I'm not going to delve much deeper into that, but I think that we will start to do these podcasts where we'll look for our agents and other agents to, throw us questions, tell us what they want to know. And then we'll have some podcasts where we'll, dive deeper into it. Yeah. You guys know that I can talk just for hours on that, right? So I have to hold myself back, right, and make sure that I don't get carried away.
I think just to add to that, Paul, you said we do what the agents used to do so they can concentrate on the other stuff. I think a lot of times those are the things that a lot of agents avoided doing, right? So that's the biggest problem. And I think it shocks people. People say, those leads are no good, or online leads are no good. It's not that leads are no good. It's that most realtors do not have the system in place and the patience for the lead. And when you tell people that on average, I think this was probably one of our stats, we have to contact someone, I think it's 7 or 8 times, 7 or 8 touch points before it actually turns into somebody wanting to meet with a realtor. Most realtors don't have the patience for 7 or 8 touch points, right? So if you can have a system and other people doing that for you, then that's fantastic, right?
Yep.
So.
For sure. So, what has your experience been with your agents using the lead gen, Stephen? I know you've had a
Well, I
few
think
good things happen there.
our lead gen has a lot of AI component to it, right? I think that's a part that's blown me away, right? At Atria a few years ago, we launched some lead gen. We had somewhat success, but now looking at the new system we're using, just the AI platform, I've been trying to embrace AI. Every time I learn something, there's something else new, and then I realize, you know what, I gotta go learn something again. But one of the things I was really amazed, this actually happened a few weeks ago. Actually, let me go back 2 days ago. I saw on Instagram a pretty big brokerage in Toronto. They were doing an event to talk about prospecting. And all these videos starts popping up, and these agents are doing role play. 2 agents doing live role play together. They're like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, thinking back, hey, that's how we used to do it, right? 10 years, 5 years ago, we role play with each other. But what we have is, a few weeks ago, I started looking at our platform. One of our agents, Joanne, goes, Stephen, I'm doing role play. I'm like, who are you doing role play with? He's like, the AI. I'm like, okay, where's the AI? She's like, here's a list of phone numbers. So I'm like, sorry, what are you gonna do? He's like, here's about 10 phone numbers. I'll just randomly pick a phone number and call. It'll be like as if I'm calling a random buyer. Whoever picks up the AI on the other side of the line, I have no idea what type of personality is that person. So I'm like, can you show me? We went through this, and I think this whole phone call conversation was about 10 minutes. I was blown away. I'm like, the more you start talking to it, this AI responds to a different way, throws you a curveball. And she's like, Stephen, this is actually a pretty nice AI talking to me. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty nice, because we wish buyers are like, or sellers are like that nice. She's like, every time you call a phone number there, you have no idea the personality. But the part I really like is the curveball throws at you, right? I think a lot of times when we just do live role play, as me and you, Paul, we were doing role play back then, we don't throw some curveball at our fellow coworkers.
We're too nice.
We're too nice, right?
We're too nice. Yeah.
We'll just be joking around. I'm slamming the door on you, right? But this AI is like, boom, I slammed the phone on you. I'm like, wow, how do you react? So just that one little component of like the 5 different AI tools that we provide to you, we truly are adapting to our market. I think that goes back to one of the reasons why ALERES is formed. We're trying to provide more systems and tools for agents by combining our knowledge and resources to give our agents a better chance in the market, right? I think the market, especially this year, I think what I hear a lot from our agents is, wow, Stephen, the market is so tough, but I'm glad I'm with Atria. I'm glad I'm with Leading Edge, because you guys are giving us more and more trainings. Yeah. You guys are not cutting costs. What we hear on a regular basis, that brokerage is cutting costs, they're cutting staff. The brokerage right beside us, apparently they laid off 7 staff. No one's doing anything now. But I think one of the things that we look at ALERES from us, the 3 of us, we actually never cut any costs, even in this difficult market, was because we wanted our agents to go, you know what? Yes, usually you're doing 10 deals, but we want to make sure you can still do 7, 8 deals. Yeah. While other people drop 50%, maybe hopefully our agents can only drop 20% in sales. That's how I've been seeing our business.
And you just got to put in more. That's exactly it, Steve. I agree. Like it when the market was hot, I hesitate to say that, but it was almost too easy, right? Deals were almost falling on an agent's lap, and it makes you somewhat lazy, right, or complicit, right? So, okay, yeah, the deals have just come in. Well, the deals aren't just dropping in your lap. It doesn't mean there's no deals. There's plenty of deals out there. You just have to reach out and get them. And I think the agents that are not, working a little bit extra, or even the brokerages that have pulled back instead of pushing forward, right? Oh, we're going to spend less money and we're not going to provide as much stuff because the brokerages are making as much money. Well, no, you should be providing more so that your agents don't drop what everybody else has dropped, right? So
I wanted to just elaborate on Stephen's conversation about using the AI role play. So on top of that, what the agents get is when they're finished that role play, they actually, within a few minutes, they'll get a complete score, and they'll get feedback, and they'll get information to tell them how they could do it differently in order to achieve better results.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is I think is amazing with how we are dealing with ALERES is that we are not sitting on our laurels. So that is amazing system. I was down in Texas a couple of weeks ago at an AI conference, right? I think I'm going to send Stephen on the next one just to see if he can.
I'm still trying to learn stuff from a year ago.
So at this conference, I looked at and reviewed another product that will actually take your call that you had with a client, and it will and I think that the key thing with AI and with the ability to do better with it is it's all about data, right? And most companies are afraid or don't, basically generate data. And when we look at AI, a lot of times I've had people say to me, well, it's going online and it's getting information and it may not be accurate. But at ALERES, the majority of data and the majority of information that we're using with AI is data that we've sourced and we've put in as the data source. And when you do it that way, then you're getting reliable information. When you look at the training, and I tend to jump all over the place, which is bad, I know, but our viewers are probably pretty smart. But when we look at our training, I know that we're using an AI tool. I don't even know what it's called, but I saw it on one of our management meetings where we're using that to generate the questions and to...
The SCORM score.
SCORM score, okay.
I think that's what it's called.
That's what it's called. Very good. See, Stephen, you're on top of things, man. And, that just makes it so much better. So when you look at this new tool that we looked at, and we haven't implemented it yet, but we're looking at implementing it, you do a call with a client, you then put that call into AI, and then it evaluates you and gives you recommendations on what you could have done different. And then instead of just a general AI call, a general role play, you now can role play that with that same client, but that now it's an AI, handling it. And because we keep data, we now can use that data to have the AI actually respond in exactly the same way as the client that the agent failed with. And then they were told how to do it different, and now they get to role play it and try to do it different. I think that if I was an agent, I'm calling that client back. I'm going to give it another go, right? Yeah. So I think that the tools out there are amazing, but it is so difficult as an agent to figure it all out, right? Yep. And and it's also extremely difficult for any of us to figure it out. But we have a team of people that we're using to figure it out, and we've embraced our staff. And between Leading Edge and Atria, or in the ALERES group, I think we have like 75 staff. So it's a large group of people that are all working towards trying to provide systems and services to agents so that they can sell more properties, right? So that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. And I think that is something that's not out there, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, our job is to help our agents sell more homes.
Yeah. Right? I think that at some point we're going to have to, set some limits on how many people we can actually allow to come and join us, right? Agents, we'll have to slow it down, because once people catch on to all this, it'll be...
It's okay. We'll open a third company called Century 21 ALERES, and Tasis will be the broker of record.
Oh, there you go. Okay. We got to get him out there.
Hey, agents, this is a joke, eh? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, no, and I agree with all of that, Paul. I think that it's a lot to absorb. It's a lot for us to absorb. So you can just imagine how agents feel, right? Here you are, you're flying to Texas to learn about AI. So, that's the question you have to be asking your broker. Did your broker fly to Texas to find out about AI so that they could teach you about AI, right? Because I think ultimately that's what the realtors want, right? And it leads us to, we talked about this at the beginning. What does ALERES mean? So ALERES is an acronym, okay, first of all. But if you look at what it means from the Latin language, it is to feed, nourish, develop, and support, which is exactly what we've been talking about here, right? That's and that was just by fluke that we figured that out. It actually stands for Atria Leading Edge Real Estate Systems, is what it actually is an acronym for. But when we looked it up, we thought, oh, wow, that's very fitting. So, yeah, that's right in line with what we're trying to do.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's exciting stuff for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to actually just do a little bit of a market update. We're obviously got the October stats from the Toronto MLS system, and we want to list, basically just have a little bit of discussion on, why these stats are interpreting these stats. So right now we have year-over-year transactions for the month of October 2025. And in October 2024, there was 6,784 transactions. And in 2025, there was 6,138 transactions. So what does that mean, guys? What does that mean to you? What should we be telling our agents about that stat?
So, well, the obvious is that the number of sales was down. I think it was 8 or 9%.
9.5%.
Yeah, 9.5%.
Yeah.
Not that I did the math that quickly from what you just said. I just remember from memory, because we're all about stats. We're always looking at the stats to see what's going on. And I think that I think the biggest dilemma that we have now, because the formula is better now compared to a year ago. And what I mean by that is prices are lower, selection is higher, and rates are lower. So when you look at that, you would think, well, then there should be more sales, right? More people should be buying real estate. So the natural question is, why not? Why are people not buying real estate? Because sometimes we have low sales, but it's because there was no inventory, so there's nothing to buy. So okay, yeah, there's people that want to buy, but there's nothing to buy. We have the inventory, people are not acting on it. And I think that really what it boils down to is lack of confidence in the market, primarily caused by, I would say, the trade war with the U.S. and the uncertainty that goes with that, right? Even though in a lot of ways, I think it might not be impacting people in the GTA. So when you talk to people in the GTA, you say, okay, how many people do you know that work a manufacturing job? Probably a very small amount, okay? So, okay, you have a client that's a police officer and they're married to a nurse and they're not pulling the trigger on buying a house. They're first-time buyers. Why? Because they're nervous about the economy or what's going on, in the economy. That to me doesn't make sense. Well, you're a police officer, you're a nurse. You're not going to lose your jobs, right? Your jobs are not tied to the U.S. economy. So interest rates are lower. You have a better selection of houses, and you can get a better price with better terms. Why are you not buying a house, right? So it is somewhat illogical, right? Now, if you talk to people in other parts of Ontario or in other parts of Canada, and I always use Windsor as an example, and I say, okay, fine. If you're living in Windsor, maybe it's a concern, because if you talk to the average person in Windsor, you say, how many people do you know that work in the manufacturing sector? You can, bet your life on it that people know a lot of people in Windsor, because husband, wife, working for the big three, all kinds of industry that's connected to that. So I understand where it would be more of a concern there. And oddly enough, I had my cousin that was visiting me on this weekend that just passed from Windsor, and I asked him this exact question, right? Are people freaking out? And he said, not as much in the last 3 months. And he is in the tool and die business, so right in and most of his business comes from the automotive industry. And interestingly enough, he said the last 3 months, he said people are almost tired of of waiting to see what's going to happen, and they're just getting on with their business, right? So I'm hoping that people start to settle their nerves on what's going on down south and look at the facts. And the facts are you're in better shape buying a house today than you were a year ago. So
There you go.
that's a really long answer.
That's a long answer.
Sorry.
So I anticipated how this was going to go with all these slides. You just gave it all.
I gave it all?
Okay. which is all good.
Just switch to the
I
rental
summed it up,
market.
right?
It's all good.
What's that?
The rental market. How's it going in the rental market?
There you go.
We
Okay.
didn't talk about the rental
So
market.
I'll go to the rental market, but what I'm going to ask you, Stephen, is that when we look at the seasonally adjusted figures, and this is over a 10-year period, right? Prior to COVID, for 8 years, we averaged around 7,000, and then after COVID, we've averaged around 6,000. So the idea is that it's not that significantly different, right? Is that it is, marginally different. The other thing that I think is interesting is that a lot of times when we look at the real estate market, people look at what has happened with prices, stagnating, going down, and depending on how you look at when you compare values, right? If you take the peak of COVID, right, when the values were at the highest, and say they've gone down this much, right? But there's only so many people that bought then. Relatively speaking, it is the long range for real estate values. So I personally believe that the best thing that happened to the real estate market is that we had challenges and prices came down, right? Because it was getting impossible. It was getting impossible for families to be able to afford a property, right? And we can look at, affordability index, right? An affordability index, which we don't have a graph for. So don't try to find that one. But when you look at affordability index, obviously it takes into account not just price, but price and what are the mortgage rates, right? And what are the incomes, right? Average incomes, and what can people afford? So affordability is better now, right? So if I go into the long Tasis answer here, it is that this market has created opportunities for a lot of people that just really couldn't get into the market before, right? So there are huge values and huge opportunities out there.
Yep.
So then I'm going to talk a little bit about the home price index, which basically is normalizing it and seasonal adjustments and all that kind of stuff. And you look at when interest rates went up, right? The market obviously slowed down, right? But you look at a 4-year period after they went up, or a 3-year period, I think it is, and it was relatively the same, right? And that index graph shows that. And the average price was in around $1,050,000, average price in Toronto. And it really didn't go down drastically, it stayed the same. Now, at the end of that home price index, we do have the last 12 months, which is the Trump effect, right? And in the Trump effect, we have uncertainty. So the idea right now is that interest rates are really at a decent level, values are lower, affordability is there, but people buy real estate based on their feelings. And unfortunately, everybody's feelings are hurt.
Yes.
Right? Because we have a guy that is, and I'm moving closer to the mic there to freak everybody out. We have a guy that is throwing a wrench into things. So, with that, we've had a little bit of a decline again. But I think also that is a temporary thing. And I know that we've got a lot of information on the news lately where tariffs are being ruled illegal, and hopefully this will settle. And I think when that does, then the opportunities that were maybe once there are going to be gone. right? And, everybody wants to also try to find the bottom of the market, right? I personally don't know where the bottom of the market is. However, I do know that the majority of people buy when it's going up like this, right? That's when the majority of people buy. So guess what? Don't buy when it's doing that. Buy now, right? And it may not be at the lowest point, but it is close to that. And this is the time to buy. So I'm gonna give you guys some other numbers that you guys can talk about. I don't know if you looked at those, but if we look at condo apartment sales, and again, this is resale stats. So this is not new construction stats. These are resale stats that I'm looking at for condo sales in third quarter of 2025. They were up 2.5% from what they were in the third quarter of 2024. And in that same quarter, the average selling price of a condo went down 6.4% from 693 to 649. So I'm going to get Mr. Chow's comment on that.
This one, I don't need to look at graphs. I'm good. Right?
There you go.
It has to be a Mac computer. I don't even know how to zoom in or zoom out. No, I think definitely condo market, especially in downtown Toronto, it's dropped, right? I think in the last, let's say 6 months, just the Yonge to Church corridor from King Street all the way up to Bloor, there's probably, I would say 1,500 units, newly constructed, ready to move in units, right? So that all of a sudden increased a lot of supply into the resale market. So now what you have is there's an influx of units on the market for sale. Your supply went up, your prices will definitely drop. But the good thing is now all of a sudden the price is getting adjusted. A lot of first-time home buyers, which is condos, starter homes, now you have a lot more transaction that people are more affordable to get into the real estate market, purchasing their first 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, right? If you look at the rental market, it's actually, we'll see the rental market adjusted based on this as well. When downtown core is the prices of rental is actually slowly going back up a little bit over month for the last, I would say, off of my head, 6 months or so. But now you're seeing because of the rent being increasing, the people are shifting back into buying because interest rates got a little bit lower. And for the younger generation, it's a little bit more affordable because there's so much more supply, I think, in the downtown core.
Yeah, very good. And I do think we have the back to work mandates that a lot of the companies have put in place.
Yep.
The banks being one that was just announced in the summer. I think that that's pushing a lot more people back into buying or leasing those units. People that during COVID decided, well, if I don't have to be in the office, or I knew people that only had to be in the office like twice a month. So they said, okay, I'm going to move to Curtis, Ontario. I'm going to move to Innisfil, right? Because who cares if I drive for an hour and a half? I'm only doing it twice a month. Well, now they're mandated back to work, and they're thinking, well, I can't do this every day, right?
No, that's absolutely correct. I'll use my own example. I have a property out in Vaughan. The tenant moved in actually around COVID time, but even when he sent me the rental application, I'm like, why are you living in Vaughan when you work in downtown Toronto? He's like, I work from home. Downtown Toronto's too crowded. I want to move up north. The value, I get a little bit better. Everything's better. I don't have to pay for parking. Now he's like, Stephen, I'm moving back downtown to purchase a property. So I'm like, why? He's like, I have to go back to the office.
Yeah.
So that's the exact same reason. I think you're absolutely right, Tasis. More and more people are managing to go back to downtown Toronto to work. Then that's why the rental rates, I think downtown's peaking up as well, right?
Yep.
There's been a little bit higher demand, I think, on that side.
Yep. It's shifting, right? Yep.
And just talking about that, when you look at Q3 2025 for rental units, it's up 20.2%. So I think that the majority of the rental units are in the core as well, right? And I think that you see those people moving back because, commuting is not the way to go. And if you can work from home, good. Yep. But when you get called back and you're mandated, you've got to make those adjustments. So the last number that I'll just get you guys to comment on is total new listings. Q3 of 2025, it's 30,624, which is up 16% compared to last year. So what does that do to the market?
Well, I think it goes back to a little bit, ties back into pre-construction as well, right? A lot of pre-construction that's closing right now came out in the market in 2020 when the market was extremely hot. And now a lot of these condo buildings that had 400 to 600 units, they're all closing. Obviously, a lot of these are investors, and now they're putting it back on the market. And so there's a surplus I would say in the condo market, there's been a significant increase. I think a lot of people back then also bought low-rise homes to move into. And now their constructions are ready, so now they have to sell their home in the low-rise as well too. I think interest rates been helping some people that were always on the fence the last few months. Should I buy? Should I sell? And some people's taking the advantage. What Paul, you're saying, you should buy when the curve is going down, not when they're going up. But I think some people's mentality is, why would I want to sell my house when the price is going down? But if you look at it, when you buy low, you sell low. You buy high, you sell. You just don't want it to be opposite ends at that time. I don't know. What do you think, Tasis?
Yeah, no, I agree. Do the opposite of what the masses are doing, and you'll usually come out ahead of the game, right?
Yeah, I think also real estate is also it is different depending on where you're looking, right? So I think that, real estate agents are always taught when somebody says, is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? Most real estate, yeah, all right, it's a good time, right? And the truth is it does depend, right?
Of course.
And, you've got areas where, let's say that you're in a detached home and you're looking at downsizing to a condo. And I'm not obviously able to pull those stats out of my head, but obviously condos are very affordable, and it's probably a great opportunity to get that condo now, right? And if you're looking at retiring in the future, it's obviously an opportune time to get that condo, maybe even if you rent it for a few years, to move into down the road. So I think that these are all things that we need to start thinking about.
There's so many variables, Paul, because I think that when you look at especially the really sharp spikes during COVID, right? So many of those were in the outskirts, right? So places like Innisville, up 28% in 1 year. Like insane. Like what goes up 28%, 30% in 1 year. So those have adjusted. So again, those are a lot of the examples that we see are, Innisville, Curtis, places where people decided to go because at the COVID stage, they didn't think that a commute was an issue for them anymore. So they could be an hour and a half out of the GTA, right? So those areas spiked unnaturally, right? Because there was this huge influx of people that were now willing to live there, and now that's pulled back. And those are the areas that have also adjusted in the negative the most.
Right.
Leaside did not see that much of a swing, right? Because it's a consistent area that's been popular with high demand always, right? Like just using Leaside as an example, but it could be any, let's say, highly desirable neighborhood in Toronto.
Just so that you guys know, Leaside is where Tass's office is, so he's promoting Leaside.
Could be Rosedale, it could be anything. But my point is that those areas didn't see the percentage increase that some of those, so you think, well, how could Curtis, Ontario have a higher increase than, let's say, a prime area in Toronto, right? Whereas now, those areas also haven't seen as much of the negative impacts.
And
so the areas makes a difference. There's all kinds of factors, right?
And that's exactly what I was saying, is that you need to look at where are you listing, where are you selling, and where are you buying. And you can actually time it where it may be the right time or it may be the wrong time, right?
Exactly.
And you certainly need to look at that. So that's very interesting stuff, guys. So I think that we're also gonna delve in deeper. Stephen, do we have any, or Steve, do we have any questions that came in at all, or anything that anybody's looking for, or we're good?
The phone lines have been lighting up. For an agent watching this, what is the best way to decide whether they should be calling Leading Edge or Atria to discuss next steps?
That's a very good question. I think you have to look at, number one is, where do you live in GTA, right? Combined from Leading Edge and Atria, we have 11 offices throughout Toronto, right? From Whitby all the way to Mississauga, downtown Toronto near the lake, all the way up north to Stouffville here. I think number one, location. I think sometimes people say, especially some companies now, they have no locations. I think it's not correct. I think as an agent, you want to be in an office environment, be able to go in, meet your coworkers. It's a lonely business at the end of the day. You go into your training, you have support, talk to your managers, talk to your fellow coworkers. You get to learn from each other. You get to build on each other. So I think number one thing, they should look at location. Is it Atria that's closer, or is it Leading Edge closer? Second thing is, every branch, we do have a different branch managers. I think you also have to, when you're picking an office, besides you get along with the three owners, right? Doesn't matter Leading Edge or Atria, we're the three owners. Next up is that the type of manager that is suitable for you, right? We have managers that are very young and very tech savvy. We have very seasonal managers that are very, very good at their job, that they're very precise, very logical, very educated, right? I think it's also, you have to look at your personality, what can gel, right? In terms of systems, Atria Leading Edge, we provide the exact same system, right? I don't know, what else do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I think what I would add on to it is that if you go into any of our locations or contact any of us, you do have the opportunity to access all of what is available at both companies, and it makes no difference to us as long as you're with one of the two, right? That's the way we look at it.
Just kind of a follow-up question to that. Outside the geography, do you feel like there's any distinct cultures?
I think that is a preference. I think that what Stephen said about meeting the manager, right? And a lot of times, right, we as owners are maybe not the person that is the first point of contact. So I think that is a key area. I don't think that you can evaluate a culture, right, at an office by going for an interview, right? I think that you can probably have a look at that and have some idea of maybe if you know people there. But I really think that Stephen hit it with, talking to the manager, looking at any of our locations, looking at geographically, and the fact that you get to use any of the locations, whether it's Atria or Leading Edge locations, they're all available to you, whether you join either company. So it's all good either way.
You discussed the Trump effect in 2025. What do you feel the Trump effect in 2026 is going to be? And that's open to anyone.
We can't answer that honestly.
So
the CIA might be.
I'm traveling to Florida on the 15th of December, so I don't know if I should maybe comment on that. Right, but
We can't predict. He changes his mind every week.
there you go. So I think, Steve, is that people are unclear, right? They're uncertain. They're concerned, right? And rightfully so, right? But I think that his craziness is losing steam. He's getting held to account on a lot of things. I think that there is, elections, and there's a lot of craziness going on. And I'm not trying to be, political. I'm a conservative voter, although I like what Carney is doing. But I think that there will be more Democrats that are elected to the House in the midterm elections, rather. And I think there's a lot of resignations. So I think that when that switches over, it will cause things to normalize. Things are not normal. This is not a normal world in the U.S. right now, right? It is just, it's craziness. So I think that when we get to that back to normal, I think that people will feel a lot better about what is going on, right? And I also, not to be political, but I think that Carney, who I didn't vote for, is doing a lot of good things, and I support the efforts that he's making to really not react to Trump, but to look at what can we do as a country. And I think that bringing the country together is an extremely positive thing.
Yep.
And I think that in the long run will be great. I also saw in the news today that they're building a pipeline to the West Coast and not prioritizing a pipeline to the U.S. I think that's also a positive. I feel good about that. And this is not a political show, and maybe I'm stepping out of bounds, but I think that these are all very positive things.
How do you see AI impacting the future of ALERES?
We're definitely embracing AI. We're not running scared from AI, which I think some companies are. And I'll date myself and let you know that I was selling real estate pre-internet, right? And I remember when the first time we had pictures of houses on the internet, right, on MLS, and agents were in a panic. They said, "We're done. Nobody's going to need us anymore. They're going to go on the computer, find a house, pick a house, and nobody's going to need a realtor anymore." And people believe that, right? And I'm sure people believe right now that AI is the same beast, right? Like the internet was. So I think that the key is you need to embrace it and utilize it so that realtors can do a lot more business. That's the bottom line. Those that will embrace it, the brokerages that embrace it, will be able to help their realtors, and the realtors that embrace it will be able to do more deals in the same amount of time.
This sort of statement, right, is AI today is as bad as it will ever be, right? And I think that's an important thing to understand, is that we are moving through and keep in mind, I went to Texas a couple of weeks ago to an AI conference. So we're moving through the scale of different types of AI, right? And spatial AI is sort of the next phase. And I watched demonstrations where somebody put on a pair of glasses and walked through a house with a client. And when they finished that walkthrough and talked to that agent about all of the, the upgrades that they did, the things that they're leaving, the things that they're not leaving, then AI filled in the listing contract with all of those things. The glasses also with spatial AI, just walking through the home, measured every room, created a floor plan of the property, and provided it to the agent after they did the walkthrough. And then the agent set down his phone, so then he was able to ask AI, where did I leave my phone? And then it told him which room he left the phone in. So the idea is that what we can conceptually think of AI, right? It's as bad as it's ever going to be. There is so much more to come. And, it's not there yet. This was a beta of that, but that's where things are going, right? So a lot of times people choose to put their head in the sand and say, I hope it doesn't work, right? Like with the internet, right? I hope it doesn't catch on, right? But the reality is that those that embrace it and utilize it are going to be ahead. It is not replacing us, right? It is, however, going to replace a bunch of tasks that we do right now that it can do better, right? The workforce of tomorrow for a realtor is our AI bot and ourselves, right? And for other businesses, it's going to include the AI bot, robots, and people, right? That is the workforce of the future. And I think that you need to have a complete sort of understanding of that to properly build it out. And just, I won't go on much more on that question, but we'll probably get into, an AI podcast where we talk about what we're doing at ALERES. So at ALERES, we've got several AI committees and groups that are creating governance, creating budgets, creating forms to use for staff to put in suggested AI improvements, right? So we're not just saying, oh, let's see what's going to happen with AI. We've got an actually detailed plan on what we're going to do with it so that we can be there. I think it's also super important that you don't get ahead of yourself, right? We're not implementing those glasses that you walk through and do all that stuff. It's coming, it's beta, right? But you don't want to always be first, but you want to be aware. And I think that that's the important thing, that ALERES is absolutely aware of it. So,
in that same lens, how do you see that adjusting what some of the most effective prospecting methods are?
okay, so do you guys mind if I take that one too? Okay. So when I said earlier in the podcast that it's about the quality of the data, right? And when we look at database management, so Leading Edge has 180,000 people in their database. And when you look at properly managing and keeping data on interactions with people, and you have that data, then you can make a completely different relationship with AI, right? So a lot of times AI is used where you can tell it's AI, right? You're on a call, you know it's AI. And I think that the best AI is provided the right amount of information so that they can talk intelligently, right? And I think that that's the platform that we're using, and we understand the value of that data. And by doing that, we can have AI complement what we're doing, as opposed to, well, that's ridiculous, right? Or that's, slow, or it doesn't make sense, right? And I think that that is combining all of those things that is going to make the difference for companies in the future. And we are absolutely taking that tact.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up tonight?
No, thank you for bringing the wine, Paul. That was delicious, and looking forward to our next podcast.
Perfect. Very good. Well, thank you very much, guys. And it's fantastic to be in this new partnership, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm excited to be back on the podcast trail. So I apologize to everybody that we were a bit rusty. We haven't done this for a while, but we will get better. Okay? Promises. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.